All right, well, let's jump in now to the big story of the day. And boy, has a lot happened since we've been with you last week. I'll tell you what. We were with you right before New Year's Eve, and everything seemed to be going okay, right? All of a sudden, as of this week, everybody's talking about World War III. We're about to get into World War III this week. Well, the big news, last week, the big news was the attack on our embassy that happened on about December 31st, so right around the New Year's Eve date, by Kataib Hezbollah, which is a group associated with the Hezbollah group, which is associated with Hamas, which is associated with basically all of the terrorist organizations run out of the Muslim Brotherhood side of things, and closely associated with the Iranians, funded, trained, equipped by the Iranians, at least the Iranian leadership. And we want to be careful because we don't want to prejudice the idea that the Iranian people are bad people. I mean, they're living under a theocratic regime that's been in place since the late 70s, since the Islamic Revolution there, so-called, quote-unquote, revolution, led by Khomeini. And, you know, they have not necessarily chosen the path that's been visited upon them. In fact, if you look at photographs of Iran prior to the so-called Islamic Revolution there, you'll see that Iran was a very prosperous country with open Western values, and people seemed very happy. They were very style-oriented. They had a lot of nice things. They were dressing nice. They looked very much like Westerners and were enjoying that lifestyle, apparently. And now, of course, they have a much different lifestyle in Iran, where they're not allowed to communicate freely. They're not allowed to watch the television that they want to watch, and that's why they all have these satellite dishes to try and get the information in from the West. They're not allowed to wear the clothes that they might want to wear. And this has been going on for, 40 years now. So, you know, our hearts go out to the Iranian people who are stuck in this situation. And certainly we don't identify them with the Iranian leadership. But, of course, the leadership is in charge, and they have control over the resources of the country and the military aspects of the country. And what they've been doing over the past, about a decade, or actually it's been about 15 years, to be honest, is they've involved themselves heavily in Iraq. And that happened because we went into Iraq and deposed Saddam Hussein militarily and thereby destabilized the country. Now, the country of Iraq is a majority Shia country. I don't know if you remember the distinctions between the Sunnis and the Shias. They're to those of us in the West, they're pretty minute sounding. In other words, we don't necessarily understand what the big deal is, but to folks involved in Islam, it's a big deal, the distinction between the Sunnis and the Shia. And, of course, Saddam Hussein and the Ba'ath Party were Sunni-oriented in Iraq. And so they were about 20%, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, of the population, and they governed over the 80% Shia population. Of course, we came in and deposed Saddam Hussein and threw that order into chaos, and the Shia started to assert themselves as you would naturally expect them to do in the country of Iraq. Well, Iran is a majority Shia country, and so naturally, when the Shias in Iraq began to assert themselves, the Iranian leadership got involved in that and began to build up its influence in the country of Iraq. And that's been going on for a decade and a half, or maybe even a little more. So it's been going on for a long time. They've been involved in Iraq, and they've been building alliances, asserting influence there. And a lot of that came to a head last week when on December 31st, they had this terrorist offshoot group of Hezbollah attack the U.S. Embassy. Now, the U.S. Embassy in Iraq, in Baghdad, is very highly secured. So the truth is they didn't get very far, but they did get into the embassy. They didn't get into the secure portion of it, but they got into essentially the public portion of the embassy and were destroying things and rioting, generally acting badly. And what's important to note about that is that an embassy is the sovereign territory of the country whose embassy it is. So even though this is in Baghdad, Iraq, when they came into the U.S. embassy using violent force to get into it, that is the equivalent of violating U.S. sovereignty, of invading U.S. territory. Now, that may not seem like a big deal to some people, but that's a huge deal. That's a huge violation of sovereignty, and they are upping the ante against the U.S. And we can talk about, we're going to get into some of the things that they've done previously, like shooting down our drones and other actions that they've taken previously. And this was a clear escalation. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.